Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 181. We are now solidly into May. Come on, let's talk about those Knicks for a minute. Unbelievable. Probably the two best basketball games I've ever seen in my life. Comeback wins. Holy moly. No one gave the Knicks a chance. But us Knicks fans, we've been believing. And wow, up 2-0 against Boston. The next game will be the day this podcast drops. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's go Knicks. Gosh, you can just feel the palpable energy just coursing through the metropolitan area. Knicks fans are excited, as they should be. This is really kind of peaking at the right time, which is exactly what you want to do. You want to be hitting with all cylinders in the playoffs. And I don't know how we pulled off these comebacks, but it's been really incredible. I come from, I grew up a Knicks fan, but my kids are all Knicks fans. My wife's a Knicks fan. We're all watching these games together, just going crazy. It's been amazing. So anyways, let's get back to task here. This week, as you guys probably know, those who actually are, very involved in the community that we've created here. I read every comment that comes through and I respond to most comments, to 90+% of comments. I even respond to some of the trolls and haters that surface. They're few and far between. We really have a very warm, positive, beautiful, wonderful community that we've created. And I love it. It's just been this amazing organic process of folks who kind of like the same stuff. And it's been amazing watching it grow. And, this week I got a comment. It was an amazing comment, really kind of touched me. And it really reminded me of why I do what I do, what the point of this whole platform is for me. So I'm going to read the comment, and I know there's a lot of new subscribers to my page and maybe don't really understand what the page seems. Understandably, if you're objectively looking at this page as an outsider, you might be like, what is going on with this page? There's pimple pops and there's all this other stuff that this guy's talking about, and I don't know how it all fits together, but I want to use this podcast as a chance to explain that a bit. But I want to share this comment with you because it really, it touched me, and it reminded me of what my why is with this YouTube channel and the other social media stuff that I do. So this came in just a couple of days ago. I think it was maybe a day or two ago. I actually forwarded it to my family group text, and because it did touch me. And then I forwarded it to my videographer, Ismail, and he said, you know what, man, maybe we should make a podcast out of this. So that's what we're doing. Good idea, Ismail. So here's the comment. The comment comes from Boots73CA, and the comment is, at Dr. Mudgil, you're an exceptional human being. If I can ever get there, I would be honored to meet you and shake your hand. I'm happy you are doing podcasts as well, as I can learn more. I didn't have a dad growing up, and that's tough on a girl. Grandpa helped, but wasn't big on advice and all that. War vet. Your contribution is beyond measure and is needed by many of us out here, like water in the desert. Thank you so much. And I responded, I said, that means more to me than you may realize. I grew up without a dad too. That's a big part of why I do what I do. And, well, thank you so much, first of all. I'm getting a little emotional even just reading it. Thank you so much for leaving that comment. So just to talk to you a little bit about this platform and what I do. So I think I've been posting, and Isabel, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've been posting every day since March or February of 2018. And I haven't missed a single day since. And I started out posting a lot on Instagram, and then slowly I started posting more to YouTube. And I think in 2019, I dropped my first podcast which was with my mom, who the original Dr. Mudgil. And also happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Moms really do make the world go around. Happy Mother's Day to my mom and to my beautiful, amazing wife. Two of the best moms in the game as far as I'm concerned. But happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Just going on that little tangent. But really for me, when I started all this stuff, I'm turning 50 this year, as I've probably mentioned 1,000 times, because I don't know why, it's just been kind of weighing on me a little bit. Not in a bad way, I've just been thinking about it. And I started this journey, I would say 7 years ago with social media. So I was 43 when I started this, probably about to turn 44, 42, about to turn 43. And I was kind of at like a point in my life, and I talk about this a bit in my book, Let's Get It, where I was just feeling like a little lost. And without getting into like all of like the nitty gritty, and you can, if you care to learn more, I talk about this like really in depth in my book, and just about, crushing goals and all that sort of stuff, which is kind of where I was in my life at that point. And, I was 43. I came from a very, very humble background. My mom was a single parent, which is why this particular comment touched me so much. I also, like this woman, I think it's a woman. Yeah, yes, she said she's a girl. Like this woman, I grew up without a dad. And, being a dad now, and something that I love being, so it's the actually best thing in the world, being a dad. It really makes me think a lot more about my childhood and like growing up without a dad, and how that kind of informed who I am. And it's something that, you don't really know how it impacts you, but when you're like a dad, you see like the things that you do with your kids, and like, how much time you spend with them and how much you love them. Looking back, it was like, oh yeah, maybe there was a little void that I didn't realize at the time, but now having like a complete family, I see like, how beautiful it is to have a mom and a dad, siblings and all that sort of stuff, and dogs. So around that time, I was, so I grew up from very humble beginnings. There were 9 of us living in a 3-bedroom apartment in Start City, which is a project in Brooklyn. And my mom was a government doctor. I have an older brother. We moved to Long Island because the schools were better out there. The schools where we were living weren't great. And my brother was about to start high school. So we moved out there, and my granddad came with us. So like this person who left this comment, I grew up with my granddad too. It was me, my mom, my granddad, and my older brother. And sort of similar. My granddad was like kind of around, but, like kind of loosely around. He wasn't like, a real force. I mean, I loved my granddad. I was very close with my granddad. But he wasn't like a real force in like my development. He was just kind of there, and I have a ton of respect for him. I loved him. We were very, very close, but it wasn't like he was like teaching me life lessons on a day-to-day basis and like coming to my games and hanging out with me and stuff all the time. But he was definitely an amazing person to have in my life. As you've heard me say many times over, the most important part of any anti-aging skin regimen is using a proper sunscreen, namely one that's at least an SPF 30 and contains titanium or zinc, or both. I couldn't be more excited to announce the launch of these 2 amazing Dr. Mudgil brand sunscreens. One is tinted, one is non-tinted, depending on what your preference is. I also have an amazing hydrating and moisturizing serum, which your skin is absolutely going to love. There's a link in the description below, which you can click to check out the products. You are going to love them as much as I do. And, just kind of fast forwarding through like, the decades beyond my childhood, like I went to college and did well there. Then I went to medical school, did well there. Then became a dermatologist. I started a practice, and became a successful practice in New York City. I opened up another practice, and I was at a point in my early 40s where I accomplished like so much more than I ever dreamed I thought would be possible for me. When growing up, I was like a minority kid in an all like white neighborhood in a very racist part at the time. It was a very racist part of the South Shore of Nassau County in Long Island. I used to get like picked on at the bus stop every day and beat up, and it was like just a horrible upbringing. In those desperate times, I just remember thinking when I was little, I was like, God, this sucks. And I didn't really have like, not that and my mom was very busy. I mean, she was she was in survival mode. She was raising 2 boys on her own, and had her own stresses, which now I appreciate much more now as an adult. But as a kid, you kind of just feel like you're on your own, because it kind of was for a lot of it. I mean, really, my mom was doing everything possible that she could, but one person can only do so much. And even when I think back on how much she was able to do, it's mesmerizing to me that, she was working a full-time job, and then she was in the military, in the Army Reserves, and, she was raising her 2 sons on her own, and just all the other things that goes into like, being a parent, like saving up for our college and all the other things, maintaining a house. I mean, just a million different things. And I don't know how she did what she did, but moms are different and they're amazing. Even I look at my wife, I'm like, how the hell do you do all the things that you do? But I don't know. Moms are just built different, I guess. So when I started this platform, I was at a point where I was like, okay, like I'm 40 something, And, maybe I have like 40 years ahead of me. It was a midlife crisis of sorts, I suppose. And I was like, well, what do I want to do with the next 40 years of my life? And I definitely, a lot of other things kind of happened in that time. Like I became fit. I was always, I was always skinny fat my whole life. And, I had a big fitness transformation in that period. And obviously I had, my professional career was blossomed at that time. And, everything was kind of hitting on all cylinders. And I was at a point in my life where I couldn't believe where I was. It was almost like, holy crap, I can't believe this is like my life. And that, where I came from to where I am now. And it was an amazing time because I was like feeling really good, but it was also like I was a little bit lost. I was trying to figure out like what, like, okay, what's next? I've been hustling for so long and trying to achieve all this stuff. And when I got there, I was just on this plateau, and I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, how do I do more? Like, how can I be proud of like what the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years are going to look like? And I remember thinking at that time, and this was in like the end of, I think like October of 2017. I was talking to one of my buddies who was a very successful entrepreneur, and I was kind of explaining to him like how I was feeling. Like I should feel like so happy, but I'm feeling kind of like lost. Not that I was feeling down. I was just feeling like kind of like lost. Like, what's next? What should I do? And he said, well, why don't you read these 5 books? And he gave me 5 books. They're all kind of like mindset, motivation, like, entrepreneurial books. And, I've listed them many times. But one of them was a book by Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And it was called Crushing It. And it was basically about how to use social media to actuate like whatever your goal may be, like whatever you want to accomplish. And I remember thinking at that time, and I've mentioned this before, like I love The Rock. That's why I call myself the Doc. It's kind of like a pun on that. Like The Rock is someone who's just accomplished so much and came from very humble background, and it's always like reinventing himself and pushing the limits. And like I'm a wrestler, I'm a football player, then I'm a wrestler, then I'm an actor, then I'm a tequila entrepreneur, and I'm like the biggest paid actor in the world now, and just always like pushing the limits. But he's always so positive and motivational, and really kind of lifting people up. He's always like like raising the tide. Like when the water rises in the ocean, all of the boats rise together. Like everyone levels up, and that's like the vibe that I get from. I don't know, but that's kind of the vibe he emanates. And I was thinking that that's what I want to do. I want to be someone who helps people level up. And really, at that time, I was thinking, I want to talk to the 8-year-old me. When I was like feeling down and like feeling like hopeless, I want to talk to the 8-year-old me and say, hey man, listen, you can do amazing things. And, all you have, this is the roadmap. This is how you do it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to set goals that are realistic and attainable. I've talked about SMART goals before. And then you have to grind at it. You have to do one thing every day that's going to get you one step closer to your goal. That's just what it takes to accomplish anything of significance. And all of us have this amazing potential, most of which goes untapped. A lot of us are just living on a plateau and not really advancing. And in fact, some of us are on the plateau and like, you're just kind of like slowly dropping down. And that's not a very fulfilling way to live. And so that was my goal. So in like 2018, I said, I'm going to post a lot of like content that's, just going to motivate folks and inspire folks. And, kind of like, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, if I can accomplish things I have, there's no way you can't. I'm just like anyone who's watching this video, and anyone who's watching this video is just like me. Like if I'm able, or if I was able to accomplish the things that I didn't think were possible, anybody can do it. You just have to grind away at it, and be all of the stuff that I talk about. Be good busy, not bad busy. Set SMART goals, all that stuff. And there's, a treasure trove of either nonsense or good content that I've created, but it's all out there. And then, so I was posting that kind of stuff. And then I posted one of these like pimple popper videos. And that was my first video that actually like hit. That was the first video that got like a lot of views and a lot of comments. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's bringing people to like my page, and they're actually viewing the content that in all honesty is like more meaningful to me, like my podcast and some of the mindset motivational stuff that I post. And And we started developing this amazing community, and one of the members of this community, her name is Martha, and you may have seen her in the comments. She's, like number one, like the sort of the queen of the Dr. Mudgil community. She's very, very active, and she interacts with other folks in the community, and she's kind of become like the de facto mayor of the Dr. Mudgil YouTube page. And I appreciate her very much. Her name is Martha, and she said, I don't know if it was in a comment or somewhere, but she said, "Come for the pops, stay for the inspiration." And I told her I'm going to steal that line, Martha. I have stolen it from you, and I appreciate you. You always get the credit. Every time I say that line, I said it comes from Martha Wood. And it's really, that is exactly what this platform is about. Like, I love interacting with the folks when I post surgical content. It's a very small part of actually what I do, but it's the content that brings the people in. Folks love watching that stuff, and we have a lot of fun just creating that content for you as well. But my hope is that the other content resonates with you guys just as much, because that's the stuff that's really meaningful to me. Like, I'm all about being in a world of abundance. We all level up together. There's plenty of room for the cake to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and for us all to enjoy it. Like I said, when the tide rises, all boats rise together. And that's really what this platform is all about for me. And this wonderful comment reminded me of that. And I'm just so touched to have the opportunity. It's a blessing for me to be able to just touch one person in a positive way. And, maybe that one person will turn into two people, and two people will turn into four people, because, really that comment is what it is all about for me. And it's honestly, it's the only thing that I really care about with the stuff that I'm posting. I just want to make folks feel better about themselves. I want to make them feel inspired. I want to make them feel like they have this amazing potential that they're going to tap into, and just feel so proud of the person that they're looking at in the mirror, because that's all I want folks to feel. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful restful weekend, are just ready to crush the week ahead. Let's get it.